Hello everyone and welcome back to Mrs. Rutland Reads Storybook Advent Calendar. Today is the 2nd of December, which means we've got the second book of our Advent calendar to enjoy, and it's called A Letter to Father Christmas, and it was created by Rose Impey and Sue Porter. A Letter to Father Christmas by Rose Impey and Sue Porter. The place where Charlotte lived was too small even to be called a village. I guess she lives in one of these houses. There were no other children to play with, except Ben, of course, but he was still a baby. Guess this must be Ben. So Charlotte was quite used to spending time on her own. Often she liked to draw, or dress up, or watch television. Or she might go out into the garden and talk to her friends, the donkey and the stray cat who sometimes prowled the flower beds looking for birds. But most of all, Charlotte liked to write. Seems to be lots of things she's written here. They're all around her. Sometimes Charlotte wrote, bread, carrots, fish, nuts, milk, hot water bottle. Looks like a shopping list, doesn't it? Or she wrote, Charlotte Hall, 7 Warren Lane, East Kilby, EA3 6P0. I think that's her address. Once she even wrote, Mrs. Hall, you need a new washer on your stopcock. We'll bring one tomorrow, Mr. Pipes. I think she's copied a note that the plumber's left, hasn't she? Charlotte didn't know that was what she had written because she couldn't read yet, but she could write beautifully. She copied anything she could find and she decorated her writing with tiny drawings. Look, there's a note here that she's copied, I think, from this notepad here, and it says, Nana Baker rang. Sheba had 4 puppies, 2 black, 2 white. Look, she's done a picture. Today, Charlotte was writing something very special, her letter to Father Christmas. She copied carefully from Mum's writing. Dear Father Christmas, I am writing to tell you what I would like in my stocking. When you come to my house on Christmas Eve, you mustn't look for me in my bedroom because Grandma and Grandad will be there. I will be in Ben's room next to the bathroom. Ben is too small to write his own letter, so I have put some things for him on my list. Also, would you bring me a surprise? I like surprises best of all. Lots of love, Miss Charlotte Ruth Hall. And look, she's put a kiss at the end. And done a lovely picture of Father Christmas. I wonder if that's the picture we saw on the front of the book. And then, since it was such a long letter, she copied out her Christmas list on a separate piece of paper. Just as she finished, Mum said, It'll be time for tea soon, Charlie. Tidy up, please. Lots of tidying up for her to do. But unfortunately, Charlotte didn't tidy up. Although she did very neat writing, she wasn't always tidy in other ways. Sometimes there was so much clutter on her table that she couldn't even find room to write. Today, a pile of paper spilled over onto the floor, and that was how Charlotte came to make her terrible mistake. Wonder what the mistake is. Let's find out. Tea was always early on a Tuesday because Mum went out to an evening class. While she got ready, Charlotte and Dad bathed Ben and put him to bed. Then Charlotte watched television while Dad slept in the big chair. Later, when he woke, he played all Charlotte's favourite games and let her stay up much later than usual. As Mum left, she whispered, Ask Dad to post your letter. Why don't you put it in the envelope ready? Then she dashed out to the car, blowing lots of kisses because she didn't have time to stop for a proper one. Charlotte looked at her lovely pieces of writing heaped up on top of her table. She picked out her special letter, folding it carefully as she'd seen Mum do, and running her finger down the fold. She slid it into the envelope, then licked the flap all the way up one side and down the other. Just in time, she remembered her present list. She sorted through the pile to find it. There were lots of lists and they all looked the same to her. This must be it, she thought, sliding it in with her letter. But it wasn't. Her list had fallen on the floor. It was lying at her feet right now and she didn't realise. Too late, she pressed the flap down with her fist. Then, to make sure, she sat on it until it was well and truly stuck. Uh-oh, I wonder what list she did put into her letter to Father Christmas. When Dad woke up, Charlotte climbed onto his knee and held out the letter. "Thank you," said Dad. "Is that for me?" "No, silly," she said. "It's my letter to Father Christmas." "Well, it doesn't say so," said Dad, and he showed her how to address it. It says, "To Father Christmas, 1 North Pole Lane, Frostbite, the far north, FC1 OSC." "Now can we send it?" Charlotte asked. "OK," said Dad. "You sit back while I post it up the chimney." Then Dad poked up the fire until there was a strong draught. When he held the letter for a moment above the flames, Charlotte caught her breath. She felt sure it would burn, but it didn't. When Dad let go, it flew straight up the chimney and out into the dark night sky. Charlotte raced to the window to watch it, but the letter had already disappeared. It was far away on its journey to Father Christmas. Ooh, look, must have gone up the chimney. Seems to be lots of letters in the sky. I wonder which one's hers. When Father Christmas opened Charlotte's letter, his first thought was, "Now that's what I call beautiful writing." But when he came to the list, he stopped and read it more carefully. "This is very odd," he said, pulling at his beard and curling it round his finger. Father Christmas was used to being asked for all sorts of strange things, but he'd never been sent a list of presents quite like this. "Why, it looks more like somebody's shopping list," he thought. And of course that's exactly what it was. Oh dear, what's on the list? I wonder if we're going to find out. From then on, Mum was even more busy than usual. Grandma and Grandad arrived and the preparations for Christmas really began. For Charlotte, the next few days were a strange mixture. She felt like bursting out laughing one minute and bursting out crying the next. Everyone else was very busy, but Charlotte couldn't settle to anything. One morning, she wandered around the house and leaned against a window, sucking her thumb. It was then that she saw the first teasing flakes of snow, there one minute, disappeared the next. She stared hard, willing it to fall faster. "Come on," she whispered. "Snow!" I wonder if it will. And soon it was snowing heavily, and it kept on snowing all day and through the night. By morning there was a good thick coating, curved and soft. Charlotte watched the birds landing on the lawn. She saw them searching for the last few berries on the holly bushes. She waved to her friend the donkey who lived in the farmer's field at the bottom of the garden. She wished she could stroke him and brush the snow off his sad face, but more than that, she wished she could bring him in out of the cold. Oh, poor donkey. Later she tapped on the glass to the stray cat. He was on the lookout for any sparrows too dazzled by the whiteness to see him coming. Charlotte didn't want him to eat the birds. But what else will he eat? She wondered. That night, when Charlotte went to bed, she peeped out and watched the snow swirling round the house. She thought about her friends, the animals, out there in the cold with so little to eat. For quite a long time, Charlotte couldn't get to sleep because she was so worried about them. Oh dear. So on Christmas Eve morning, Charlotte was tired and quieter than usual. "I hope you're not going to be poorly for Christmas," said Mum. But Charlotte wasn't poorly. She was still worrying about the animals. Several times that day she tried to get someone to stop what they were doing, to give her some food for them, but everyone said the same thing. "Ask me later, sweetheart. You can see I'm busy just now." And they went on being busy all day, right up until the evening. When the work was finally done, everyone came and sat quietly together round the fire, while Grandma read Charlotte the Christmas story. And at last it was time for bed. Charlotte left a mince pie and a glass of sherry for Father Christmas and hung up her stocking. Then she knew that after all the waiting, Christmas was really here. Ooh, exciting! She lay in bed, too excited to sleep, wondering what she would find in her stocking when she woke in the morning. Suddenly she remembered the birds and animals. She still hadn't fed them. Charlotte didn't know what to do. She felt so sad. A large tear plopped onto her pillow. She wondered if Father Christmas ever brought anything for the animals. If she was Father Christmas, she would. Charlotte sucked her thumb. Now she didn't feel excited. She felt rather unhappy. But by midnight, when Father Christmas tiptoed into her room, Charlotte was fast asleep and dreaming. He leaned over to have a look at her. He was particularly interested to see this little girl who'd sent him such an unusual Christmas list. "I hope you won't be disappointed," he whispered. I wonder what he's going to leave. On Christmas morning, it was just light when Charlotte woke. She crept out of bed to find her stocking. It was full and very heavy. But even before she opened it, she drew back the curtains. She looked out onto the garden, hoping to see her animal friends. It had stopped snowing at last. Everything was icy cold and sparkling. Only the birds were awake, cutting clean arrow-shaped tracks across the lawn. Look, with their feet. They do look like arrows, don't they? Charlotte crept back into her warm bed and pulled her stocking onto her knee. She took out the first parcel. It was an unusual shape. She felt it. Her fingers pressed into the sides, which were soft and spongy. She took out the next present and shook it. There was a funny slopping noise, and the next one had a strange smell. Charlotte began to open them. She couldn't believe her eyes. They were not the toys and books she had expected. They were far more unusual presents than that. She unwrapped them one by one. Bread, carrots, fish, nuts, milk, and a hot water bottle. They were the things on the shopping list, weren't they? It was just as if Father Christmas had been able to read her mind. He'd brought her exactly what she needed. Oh, look. When Mum and Dad woke much later and went to look in on Charlotte, she wasn't there. She was already out and about delivering a few presents of her own. Look, I guess the hot water bottle was for the donkey, with a carrot, and the cat's eating the fish, and some milk, and the birds are eating the bread and probably the nuts as well, I think. Oh look, there's Mum and Dad coming out to see her. She looks very happy now, doesn't she? I bet the animals are too. And Father Christmas hadn't forgotten Charlotte's surprise. At the bottom of her stocking was the perfect present for a little girl who liked to look after animals. Can you see what she's got? It's a farm, a toy farm. Oh, that's a nice present, isn't it? Look, they've all got some nice presents. And there's Father Christmas with the shopping list. Well, I hope you enjoyed that story. And when you write your letter for Father Christmas or for Santa Claus, I hope you make sure you put the right list in the envelope and not a shopping list like Charlotte did. I'll see you next time for another of my Christmas storybook Advent calendar stories. See you soon!